But what's up, chat? It's your boy Brad Sensei here with Lil Sensei. You feel me? We are going to be doing a reaction to the new Rockstar breakdown of the Odyssey. Um, you know, it is something that we watched yesterday, and we now just want to watch I guess, an explained video and just kind of, I guess spoilers for real. Spoilers, spoiler alert.
Spoiler warning.
Off rip. But if you haven't watched it, definitely watch it because it was elite.
10 out of 10, you wouldn't even know you were sitting there for 3 hours.
No, deadass. I usually fall asleep in movies and shit for like damn near anything. It don't even matter. Like, it could be a freaking Fantastic Four or something, but this one I didn't fall asleep at all, man. I was locked in. I was in there. I mean, there was one little moment where I almost dozed off, but I was entertained the whole time. A little bit.
Oh my god.
I got tired towards the end, okay?
I don't even know how.
So
whatever, whatever.
But we will sure be keeping this.
This is an in-depth breakdown.
Yeah, hopefully y'all enjoy. New Rockstar. Shout out to new Rockstar there, guys.
Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey is a masterpiece in conversation with all of his past films, from Oppenheimer to Interstellar. So let's unpack all of these subtle connections. I'm Eric Voss.
I never saw Oppenheimer, so I'm like,
and analysis of Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey.
I should though.
No, honestly, Oppenheimer, since it came out, I heard good shit about it, but I never watched it either, so unfortunate.
Film adaptation of the 3,000-year-old epic poem attributed to Homer. I love this film. It was my favorite film of the year so far. And in this video, I'm going to review it scene by scene to examine the deeper meaning, how it was made, the interesting adaptation choices, the incredible attention to detail.
He's not really recording it that much until we actually talk.
And our other deep dive channel, I have broken down most of Christopher Nolan's films.
Hell yeah.
So, I couldn't wait to get into this one. And
Hell yeah.
feeling pretty confident I understood Tenet, I am wearing this I didn't understand Tenet shirt, and this plus our even better Odyssey.
I never watched that either.
Available at our merch store, nerdright.shop.
Yeah, it was kind of mixed.
Of the globe, specifically here,
Too much time travel
the
shit.
Mediterranean Sea around the islands of Greece and Italy. Yes, the exact route Odysseus and his crew take in this movie. And as we pull out from Earth, we see flashes of lightning in that part of the world. The one actual form we see Zeus take in this film, as it is Zeus's law of hospitality.
We got some eats real quick, by the way. Get y'all some little something while we watch this, bruh. We got some Pizza Hut. You better get you some little egg or some bev,
it's
of course.
Little Caesars. Don't mind
Pizza
him.
Hut, Little Caesar, whatever, man. I eat my butt, okay? Anyways. Anyhow.
That these characters are judged the most for violating or upholding. And then over black, we see this dark blue text, a time of apparent magic. Apparent is the key word here. Christopher Nolan doesn't set this film in a time of actual historically recorded magic, but rather of subjective magic. Magic according to unreliable accounts, seen by unreliable eyes. In truth, no one really knows what the world was like during this time, as this end of the Bronze Age was followed by a historical dark period that both makes the exact authorship of the Odyssey legend difficult to ascertain, and is reflected internally in this film by the rise of the mythologized fearsome people from the sea, a historical mystery that this film gives an explicit answer to. The film opens with the Bard, played by rapper Travis Scott. Christopher Nolan casting a music star after
hear ye, hear ye. Hear my banger.
No, literally. Boom, boom, boom. So
the sacred cattle of the sun god.
So
Odysseus' crew are forbidden from eating. The Bard chants, boom, boom, boom. A face, boom, 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 boom. A fleet, boom, 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 boom. A war.
Yo, this early part was so ugly, having this fucking dude Travis Scott doing all this. I was like, okay, bro. So he's here to promo the movie, clearly.
Seriously.
Clearly, but it honestly towards the. Well, yeah, I guess it is spoiler already, so we can yap about it. But towards the end, low key, him spinning back and doing that whole low dun dun dun. Towards the end, I was like, okay, now it's tough. In the beginning, it was just stupid. I was like, alright, we got Travis Scott out here in the movie doing some goofy ass shit, I guess.
I'm not gonna lie, if I didn't know it was Travis Scott prior to the movie, I don't think I would have put it together.
No, facts. He did look so different, except for the end. You could kind of tell it was Travis at the end, but in the beginning, I was like, "Who the? That's Travis? Huh? Okay, I guess."
Boom, a man. Boom, 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 boom. A thought, a trick to break the walls of Troy, and burning, screaming to the ground.
Yes, sir.
The opening words of Homer's The Odyssey, translated by Samuel Butler in the year 1900, are, "Tell me, O muse, of that ingenious hero who traveled far and wide after he had sacked the famous town of Troy." Now, in that translation, Butler used
That'd be
no
nice.
poetic meter, but in Greek, Homer's Odyssey is in dactylic hexameter, which is da 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 da. In Emily Wilson's 2017 translation, she managed to both modernize the language and put it in iambic pentameter. Nolan has cited this exact adaptation and its version of the opening line. "Tell me about a complicated man. Muse, tell me how he wandered and was lost when he had wrecked the holy town of Troy, and where he went and who he met, the pain he suffered in the storms at sea, and how he worked to save his life and bring his men back home. He failed to keep them safe, poor fools. They ate the sun god's cattle, and the god kept them from home.
So they hit a quick little-
Tell the story of our modern times. Find the beginning."
So she just basically literally summarized the story for motherfuckers, type shit.
No, she translated it.
I mean, yeah,
from
but
a different text.
but that this saying this is the big opening.
Yes.
So literally, I don't know. It didn't sound like the first one was a little, like, you know.
Because it was translated.
Yeah, you know. That's how the Bible be
Let's go
working.
back to the beginning. The Odyssey is the epic poem that's considered the bedrock of all
Essentially.
Western literature, composed
Yes.
by an apocryphal figure known as Homer, sometime in the late 8th century to early 7th century BCE, sometime after the Greeks adopted their written language from the Phoenicians. The Greeks first met the Phoenicians either in the late Bronze Age, which would have been 1500 to 1200 BCE, or right in the middle of the
Bronze
Greek Dark
Age.
Ages, which ran from around
Well, you got
1100
half a
to
body.
800 BCE. I mean, it was really the earliest dates historians are able to trace the Odyssey document back to. That
See
mark
all
the
the old pictures and they are basically damn near naked, but one leaf covering it, basically. Ah, man. Took yours?
No, I have to. Can
Yeah.
you grab it for me?
Yeah.
A few moments later.
The berry is getting fed. Absolute lunacy.
What?
My bad. My bad.
Suki!
End of those dark ages. Many historians attribute the fall of the Bronze Age of Greek civilization to the rise of the people from the sea people referenced in Egyptian literature, which historians have seen as some maritime-based raiders like the Luca or the Peliset, as well as others such as the Weshesh. Nolan uses this whole
They're
film to
pirates,
redefine exactly
arg!
who these people of the sea who were responsible for the collapse of Western civilization. But due to this historical dark period, the poem's true origin is a mystery. But it was believed that the poem was drafted from a couple dozen Homeric poems that were oral traditions performed out loud at contests and festivals, and then drafted alongside some
So literally
literate
the Bible.
collaborator who must have him or
Literally.
herself been familiar enough with that oral tradition to put it into
Literally.
written dactylic hexameter. So really, by opening with this bard telling the story, played by a rapper that we know, Christopher Nolan is basically trying to translate what that oral tradition would have felt like. And the fact that the bard immediately redefines the Trojan horse as a trick that brought Troy screaming to the ground, Nolan is clearly using this whole film to examine the toll of Odysseus' clever maneuver and the actual pain and suffering it inflicted on Troy. We see the Trojan horse here in the sand
This
of the
man,
beach.
Christopher
It's
Nolan,
found
is
by
a
soldiers
genius.
from Troy,
No,
and these
for real.
Trojans are wearing the classic white hat colors, while the forces of the Achaeans, aka the Greeks, are depicted in black hat colors, as we see in classic Western film, as this movie is really judging them as the true villains of this war, led by King
Literally,
Agamemnon of Mycenae to
fire
retrieve
character.
Helen of Sparta,
Honestly.
but really also to control shipping routes. Left all alone to accompany this horse is Sinon, played by Elliot Page. Sinon does not appear in Homer's The Odyssey or in Homer's The Iliad, but does appear in Virgil's The Aeneid as the treacherous agent of the Greeks here, the one who convinces the Trojans to bring the horse into their city. But in his telling, Christopher Nolan reframes the story of Sinon as just a young farm boy who ended up taking Antinous' draft lot for the war effort, whom Odysseus exploited as a sacrificial pawn, never telling Sinon that they were inside the horse the whole time, so that Sinon would seem believable in his explanation to the Trojans. Nolan really wanted to fix the confusion he had when he first read the story of the Odyssey as to why the Trojans would fall for rolling in a horse on wheels. Like in many art depictions, the wheels were built onto the horse. Who would be that dumb? Well, here the Trojans wound Sinon, who calls the horse a gift for Athena. The Trojans respond, "Common gods, respect their offer, save it from the waves, take it to Athena's temple. The war is over." Yes, these Trojans see it as a peace offering from the Achaeans to their shared common god of Athena to bless their journey home, and they choose to take this token of goodwill from the waves, saving it from destruction. So by tricking the Trojans this way, Odysseus is totally violating Zeus's law of hospitality and directly insulting Athena. You'll notice in all these opening shots that it just looks incredible. The Odyssey was the first movie ever shot 100% on IMAX film. Ever since 2008's The Dark Knight, Christopher Nolan has been experimenting with shooting more.
Bad boy, if you don't watch this set on IMAX, bruh, I ain't gonna lie, you're basically missing out basically on the film itself. You feel me?
Seriously.
Literally.
More of his movies on this format, but always struggled due to the loudness of the vertical film moving through the shutter, making it normally impossible to record any audio during these takes. So for this film, Christopher Nolan and his producer and wife, Emma Thomas, worked with IMAX to develop a new version of the IMAX camera with a new heavy shell cover that muted the sound so that they could record the actors there on set. Christopher Nolan named this device the Keeley after his IMAX collaborator, David Keeley, who sadly passed away right after they wrapped on this film and actually received a dedication in the movie's closing credits. In other promos, the actors seem to refer to this
makes sense. I was like,
the
who is
blimp
that?
because it required multiple men to move, and sometimes the actors could not see their scene partners across it. So to get around that, the crew rigged up a system of mirrors to maintain their eye lines. The Trojans haul the horse out of the surf.
Yo.
What?
The shit that goes into making movies, like what?
And you would have never fucking known.
No, literally, honestly, bro, it's like the end back. You know, the back end
isn't
of YouTube,
isn't that where they're sitting at the table?
Like the one they were showing right there?
Yeah. Or no, that was outside.
Yeah, that was one they were, oh, I can't show them the fucking thing.
Well, it's not on wheels built into it, but rather on logs that they shaved to avoid scraping the horse, and even wrapped up its tail to avoid any damage. That's how much they respected the Achaeans whom they thought left it.
No,
now, in the distance of this shot, we can see the practical Troy set that Christopher Nolan's crew built. They built this set in Morocco at Ayat Ben Haddou near the Atlas Mountains and covered more than 2.5 acres or over 110,000 square feet, large enough to accommodate 2,000 extras and more than 60
what do
structures.
you mean you
and
built
right
the
now in the
whole
movie,
town?
we believe we're going to get a full prologue.
What do you
showing
mean?
the end of the Trojan War, but suddenly we cut away from these images as Penelope, Odysseus' wife, Anne Hathaway, shouts, "Stop! Not this song!" Penelope doesn't want to be reminded of the great war story of the husband who never came home. Like Homer's poem of the Odyssey, Christopher Nolan's film adaptation is not told in sequence, and the full story of the Trojan horse is told in pieces throughout the film. The first part of it by the bard here, and then later by Menelaus as a story of conquest, and then later by Odysseus to Penelope as a story of horror and regret. Odysseus and Penelope's son Telemachus, Tom Holland, complains about the
Spider-Man! Telemachus! Bro, him
and his spidey senses be tingling.
No, literally.
He said, "I know my dad is still alive."
Literally. Bro, the glaze on Odysseus from bro. He don't know his dad, but he glazed him to the end, bro. For real. For real.
For real.
No, I see sure, cause that boy is him. No cap.
Hoping to marry Penelope to claim the throne of Ithaca in Odysseus' absence. Penelope tells her son to try casting them out by bringing up Zeus's law. By Zeus's law, she means the custom of hospitality, the idea of seeing every stranger visitor as a potential god in disguise, as Zeus, throughout Greek mythology, would often take a disguised mortal form to test the hospitality of homeowners. These suitors are abusing that law. Penelope is behind this thatched, semi-translucent screen, obscuring her from even our view as she continuously weaves her father's burial shroud, which she insists upon finishing before even considering a suitor. This is actually a clever trick by Penelope. She pretends to be in this devout state of mourning, but every night she actually comes back out and undoes the day's progress of her tapestry. The fact that she's often hidden behind this wall isn't just a vanity curtain to keep the suitors from staring at her too lustily. For us, it's also kind of a way to keep Odysseus from even clearly seeing his platonic ideal wife. Telemachus confronts the leader of the suitors, Antinous, Robert Pattinson, and his fellow suitor, Polybus, Corey Hawkins, who say they remember Odysseus's bad mind for how he strung his cattle. This might be a reference to how Odysseus in the poem feigned lunacy by tying an ox and a donkey to
You should have been
plow
like,
and
this
sow
is the
fields
skin
with
of a
salt,
killer Bella.
all as a way to try to get out of going to Agamemnon's war. Antinous tells Telemachus,
You're pining for a daddy you didn't even know. Like some sniveling bastard.
Now, there was some griping online
Edward.
about characters in this movie using
No.
terms like dad and daddy, but also the term father never existed in ancient Greek. I will admit, it is an interesting choice to have actors like Robert Pattinson and Tom Holland use American accents instead of just their natural, normal English accents. But since this is all a story being told by the bard, it is arguably a story being told from an American point of view. Telemachus allows in a beggar, warning these skeptical suitors that he might strike them down, and we hear a thunderclap that scares them off. This sets up why the suitors will reluctantly allow in Odysseus when he pretends to be a beggar in the third act. Telemachus tells the beggar that he has wise eyes, Athena's eyes, a phrase that he will repeat often in this film, especially to his mentor, his guardian.
Everybody got Athena's eyes.
Literally.
The goddess Athena, despite the fact that Odysseus in this movie denies that theory. This repetition, though, with Tom Holland's character is actually intentional, because when Emily Wilson composed her 2017 translation of the poem, she noted that past translations maintain the over-repetition in Homer's poem of phrases like wine dark sea and bright-eyed Athena as markings of this being an oral tradition, because such repeated phrases are really helpful memory markers for an oral storyteller and a listener. So in her translation, she did repeat these phrases, just slightly less. But Nolan has Tom Holland repeat bright eyes, Athena's eyes several times throughout the movie, as this is now once again a partially orally told translation of the Odyssey. And again, coming from the perspective of a bard who is a rapper. Telemachus trains with Mentor and Eumaeus, played by John Leguizamo, a blind swineherd who looks after Argus, Odysseus' the Argus in the film is a podango, an ancient breed of dog, of which there are approximately only 75 left in the world. And we flash back to this same spot on the hill where
freaking
Odysseus
dying.
first spared this adorable puppy.
This dog, oh my freaking god.
Literally, him and the blind dude, the goats of this movie, for real.
Seriously.
Like,
It's like, I may be blind, but I can still see.
no, for real. To all those dudes that put the dog in there and the little shit. You know, I was so happy when bro came back and started just Biggie. Oh yeah, where you going, Biggie? Like, he went, bro. Man, let me tell you something, man. Yo.
But you know, Chris Nolan, I didn't need that shot of that other poor puppy being thrown off before Argus. Now, throughout this, we hear a
No, literally.
instruments that are primarily
like, why did bro throw
He
away
just,
four
yeah, he
puppies?
just yeeted. He just said, oh,
He said, off a cliff and
The
shit. I was like,
sacrifice.
"Aye." Literally, I was like, bro, what the hell, boy?
played by musician
Bye
Rosa
bye.
Ferretti. Composer Ludwig Göransson was tasked by Christopher Nolan to create a sound fully unique to this world, and Göransson in his research found instruments that would have been popular in music in ancient Greece. And the strings really come together well in this flashback as a younger Odysseus strings his bow, requiring great strength, and then upon completing it, we hear the three notes of the lyre, da, da, dwang. Yes, the bowstring is what provides the final third note of the main theme of the movie. I love it. On this sound effect, we finally see Matt Damon's face in this movie as the epic titular hero. That bowstring pluck will be how Penelope recognizes him later. And I'm just gonna say,
he better win a
isn't it
fucking
interesting that a
Oscar
wife
for this
recognizes
shit.
her
I'm
husband by
not
the
gonna
way he
lie.
moves
It
his
like gives
finger in this
Revenant,
motion?
you know,
But
like
he
Leo.
plucks it here to draw the hog out to
No,
make
they
a
get
fair
the whole
fight, to
like,
fight
you
with
know,
honor, even
scrappy
though the
looking guy kind of situation. They always win an Oscar when they look the most homeless.
Yeah, is that how Leo won?
Oh, you never seen The Revenant?
No.
It's literally about how he survives on a mountain, basically. Yeah, and like he lives in the bear hide situation.
Yeah, I remember seeing, I think, him getting the reward for that, but I don't know.
Yeah. He gutted a bear and then stayed inside there for warmth or some shit. Tough.
Not for real.
I
Yo,
mean, it was a movie though.
another thing. The trailers we watched, bro, there's some gassy Arnold coming out, like, towards the end of this year, for real. Like that other mommy trailer.
It's like
It's like
real,
Coraline.
yeah. It's like
Yeah,
Coraline, but like
Coraline.
the real a people version of Coraline.
Deadass. I was like,
Which I'm like, but like
yeah.
Coraline was already done, just in cartoon. So like, why did what? It's like the same shit. It's
Basically.
literally just called Other Mommy because they can't use Other Mother.
literally.
Ugh.
And then there was this other like
No
trailer.
creativity, let me tell you.
Literally. But there was this other trailer too that had like, kind of what we'll be talking about with the dog and stuff. That was crazy. It was so sad.
Oh my god, it was like about a dog and it was a war dog and it had PTSD and I can't even talk about it. I was like, we're not watching that movie.
Deadass.
I will sob. I'll be emotionally unwell.
Go and watch the Odyssey, bro, and see what we talking about.
Yeah.
No lie.
Hog ends up scarring the crap out of his leg. This guy's never gonna have great luck with pigs. But the wound left on his leg, as Yuri Clea, played by Kate Fugle, stitches it, will be exactly how this nursemaid later recognizes him when she washes this beggar's feet. I love that they included this character and this particular detail, because it is a big deal in Homer's poem that the slaves serving Ithaca understand their master's bodies even better than their spouses do. It's also interesting how Nolan's take on the Odyssey frames Odysseus as far more honorable than the trickster, liar, and code switcher the hero is described as in Homer's poem. But this is also kind of a trope with Nolan's films, that he likes to prop up his heroes on pedestals, making them superior men filled with regret, rather than them just being, deceitful little shits like men sometimes are in the world. Eumaeus explains how when Agamemnon's fleet appears, Odysseus drafted men by lottery. Now, the first version of events that we hear is that young Antinous volunteered, trying to buy the lot of young Sinon, but Odysseus, sympathizing Antinous' father, made the kid stay behind while taking the original draftee, young Sinon. But the truth we learn later is that this was a lie by Antinous. It was actually the opposite. Antinous was the one who drew the lot, and Sinon begged to go instead, so that Antinous could financially support Sinon's father, which Antinous never did, because he sucks. This entire backstory with Antinous and Sinon is an invention in Nolan's adaptation. It's not part of Homer's text. It's all to tie these characters directly to the Trojan horse and the general theme of breaking Zeus's law. The castle of Ithaca was shot at the 15th century Castello di Santa Caterina on the island of Favignana near Sicily. Italy's Council of Culture allowed them to shoot at that castle for all the exterior shots, but they refused the crew to build a road up to the over 1,000-foot tall hill, so they had to hike and airlift stuff up there every day to shoot.
Don't pick it up, bro.
If he were to refuse to go to war, Agamemnon will take their son, just like how he sacrificed his daughter. Agamemnon's daughter is Iphigenia. Agamemnon had previously offended the huntress goddess Artemis by killing a sacred stag, and Artemis retaliated by preventing his forces from reaching Troy due to strong winds. So to calm the winds, he sacrificed Iphigenia, which ended up being the original sin of the House of Atreus. During this scene, young Telemachus sleeps on the floor facing away from them, which is a little Nolan trope. Like in Inception, the memory of the child that the hero is longing to get home to, always facing away to represent the daddy away at work, starting to forget what his kids look like. Penelope just wants to leave, to take the fastest ship and sail west, hold hands on the deck, chase the escaping sun. She gives him her pin of Athena, which really in this movie serves the function of Odysseus's Inception totem, kind of like Dom's spinning top, a little object that links him back to the memory of his wife. But really in the present, Odysseus is currently on the island of Ogygia as he struggles to regain his memory. Walking with him on the beach is Athena, played by Zendaya, the goddess of wisdom, strategic warfare, and crafts. In Homer's Odyssey, Athena is an active backer of Odysseus' schemes, enraging Poseidon, the god of the sea, who rages against the boat engineering that Athena inspires. Here in this movie, she is the one god we see in human form, but the reason why Odysseus sees her this way comes to light later on. And throughout this movie, every time Nolan reveals Athena talking to Odysseus, it's in the form of a Texas switch of cinematographer appointed.
Nah, not gonna lie, I really thought that Zendaya was really just there just to just because she wasn't there for it until the end. Until the end, then it was like, oh, so that's why it's Zendaya as Athena, not just Zendaya just being there because it's her. You feel me?
I'm done.
Hotema just shifting the camera in a subtle way so that in one shot Odysseus appears alone, but then as the camera turns, suddenly Zendaya is there. Odysseus asks why gods can't speak in ways mortals understand, and Athena says, who doesn't understand thunder, the fire, a child's smile, a good harvest? Yes, with this line, Nolan outlines the real natural elemental forms that gods will take throughout this movie. On this island with him is Calypso, played by Charlize Theron, a nymph said to be the daughter of the Titan Atlas. Most of Odysseus' journey in the second act of this film is recalled in flashbacks while he's here talking with Calypso, who's really trying to repair his broken mind after forcing him to consume the lotus flower. Actually, having Calypsis be the source of this lotus flower is how Christopher Nolan keeps in a chapter from Homer's poem that he otherwise omits. The lotus eaters, the people on the island Jerba off the coast of Tunisia, who eat this sweetest honey flower that causes their minds to fill with amnesiac peaceful apathy and forget their homes. There are some thematic parallels here with Dom in Inception and the dream version of Maul, who lures Dom into staying with her in limbo forever, while Dom struggles to get back to the reality where there is a family waiting for him. In truth, whether it was Inception or Interstellar or even The Dark Knight Rises, many of Nolan's films have been essentially the story of Odysseus trying to get home. And then back after Troy fell, we see the grave of Sinon with his armor stacked and Troy smoldering in the background. Odysseus faces Agamemnon, Betty Safdie, whose armor is
Agamemnon, such a fire character. Look at this.
That looks like Batman's body
literally
armor in Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy.
Yo, he aura farmed the whole movie, bro.
I was like, who in the hell is this man?
For real, bro. I'm like, bro was just there, just stealing
all the aura.
For real. Like, damn,
Most memorable part of the movie is literally just this man standing there.
Literally, they open the doors, bro. It's just
boom, boom. I'm like, oh my god. And guess what? You never see bro face, for real.
For real.
They don't show his face. I had to Google who the fuck this actor was
Literally.
because they don't show his face.
Literally.
And you want to know what's even funnier? It's like a basic, I mean, okay, I won't say a nobody, but like, I didn't know who they were.
It's just some, I don't know.
Like a random, like
a
not.
random actor that you wouldn't know of. For real. Like, for real. For sure.
Like, no. Like, doesn't look like that. Like, I was like thinking I was gonna look like find somebody like Christian Bale, you know, like Batman, you know? Nah, bro. Bro looks like Darren Criss from Glee. Literally a curly-haired white boy who's got chubby little cheeks just like me. Oh, it's so funny. So funny.
Honestly.
Google it.
Honestly, look it up. And watch the Odyssey.
But we never actually see him fighting anymore. The black braid of his helmet is lined with these golden vertebrae, and I think it's all to foreshadow this guy as kind of a cursed walking dead man, a future skeleton for what he did to his daughter. Odysseus tells his men that they're going to take the risky southerly route, hoping to take advantage of those winds to get home faster than Agamemnon and Menelaus. Among his crew we meet here are Eurylochus, played by Himesh Patel, his second-in-command and husband to Odysseus' sister, and Polites, played by Andrew Howard. Others on Odysseus' crew include Anchialus, played by Will Yun Lee. We actually later see him taking the beeswax out of his ears and swim into the sirens. Rest in power, King. There's Cepheus, played by Jenny Gonzalez, Menitus, played by Jesse Garcia, Ilis, played by Ryan Day Quintal, and Elpenor, played by Giovanna Depo. He's the one who translates the goat herder in the first village that they raid, who later gets thwacked against the cave wall by the Cyclops. Rest in power to you too, King. Odysseus will return to the underworld to honor you and put you at rest. And Antiphates, played by Josh Stewart, a past Christopher Nolan collaborator. He played Barsad in The Dark Knight Rises, and he actually voiced Case, the robot, in Interstellar. For the main boat of his fleet, they used the world's largest modern Viking longship, the Draken Harald Harfager. It's 35 meters or 150
I beg your pardon?
And they actually sailed this boat throughout
Harg.
the islands in the Mediterranean Sea. Christopher Nolan drew an actual map of the fictional and real islands that show Odysseus' journey. The places Odysseus visits in Homer's poem are believed to be based on real-world places in the Mediterranean. And on this map, in the behind-the-scenes shot, you can see the Aeolian Islands, Lipari, which is where he set the Siren Rock on its western shore, Volcano, and then Basilazzo, which is where Nolan set the Scylla Rock, and to the western shore, another rock forming the Scylla Pass that Odysseus later chooses to take to avoid the Charybdis whirlpool. Actually, the Aeolian Islands are believed to be the inspiration of the mythological Aeolia, the island kingdom of Aeolus, ruler of the winds, a floating island surrounded by a wall of bronze that Odysseus visits, and a chapter that this movie omits. They first stop at this island where a goat herder says they abandoned their village, fearing these Greeks were the people from the sea. It's kind of like this movie is telling us throughout what the answer to the question is, and they actually filmed this part on the Sicilian island of Fatignana, the Goat Island, which is believed to be the place where Homer envisioned Odysseus landing at this point in the story to barbecue some of those goats. The villager warns that this crew won't like what's ahead, but now, feeling confident, they land on another island and follow a single ship.
Hey, bro, actually being able to scratch his
They
ear.
shot this in Nestor's Cave in the Peloponnese region of Greece, in a space measuring 65 by 52 feet with a vaulted
Oh,
ceiling
yeah,
only 95
he
feet
loves
high.
that.
It's actually been used by humans since the Neolithic period. They turned this cave into a practical soundstage.
Yo,
so
nah,
cool that they
for
shot
real,
here.
that
In
shit
this
was-
cave, Odysseus' crew finds bags of cheese on the walls. This comes from Homer's
That shit was
description
well
of the
played.
Cyclops
Because
making
I'm not
cheese
gonna
from
lie, I've watched the like older, I don't know, random, I don't know, like them old Hercules movies.
Yeah.
Remember the fucking scorpion? You know how it was CGI'd? I thought the Cyclops was lucky gonna be the same. Which, I mean, kinda. At least it's not that bad,
It
for
wasn't
sure.
too bad. No.
You know, it wasn't the most disgustingest, but definitely not you know, it's not like what I would think a Cyclops is. For real, I'm like, definitely scary.
I mean,
though.
yeah,
It was scary though. for
scary
real.
as
Hearing-
fuck, but, like,
yeah,
I don't-
hearing bro.
Island
It's
is
like,
nah.
like straight,
for goat milk and dry storing it in wicker racks. Historically, this is considered to be the origin of feta cheese. And now the giant Cyclops enters the cave. This Cyclops is named Polyphemus and is played by Bill Irwin, a performer who worked with Christopher Nolan to puppet the movement of Tars in Interstellar and voice the robot. Polyphemus's design in this movie is gnarly. One human eye twisted sideways so that it opens and closes vertically, along with a human nose that's also just kind of stretched and twisted to the side. This visual effect of his size scaling was accomplished practically using some old school filmmaking techniques of Ray Harryhausen. They shot Bill Irwin on one plate with a scaled down cave entrance model for the background, and then they shot Odysseus' crew on a separate plate reacting to him in the foreground, and then they used forced perspective to visually trick our brains into merging the two. They also built a practical 60-foot anthropomorphic animatronic puppet so that when the Cyclops sleeps, that is a real puppet that the actors are sneaking past. It's similar to
What the fuck?
No, actually though, they really had 3-point perspective.
the way
My
Stan
thing.
Winston's team in Jurassic Park were able to build a super lifelike sick Triceratops that the actors were able to touch. This amounts to a horrifying sequence. A huge hand bursts out of the darkness to grab a soldier, and we see that soldier still kicking, and Bill Irwin's
no, I
hand,
really
which
thought
must
it
mean that
wasn't
Bill
gonna
Irwin
show
was
him
holding a
until they
smaller
did it.
motorized puppet, and then he bites off the head and the arm, and that severed arm drops out of his
Ugh,
mouth on the
nah.
headless stump. Ugh. Actually, the way the Cyclops eats this guy, biting off the head and the arm, mirrors the way in this famous painting where the Titan Kronos, also known as Saturn, eats his child. But this scene does reveal
Bruh.
that Polyphemus can talk, it's just in a very loud voice. But you can make out that he's screaming to his father, Poseidon. In Homer's poem, though, Odysseus full-on converses with Polyphemus and ends up escaping by fooling the Cyclops into thinking that Odysseus' name is Nobody, so that after Odysseus blinds him with the hot poker, Polyphemus screams, "Nobody's blinded me!" And all the other giants are like, huh? What are you talking about? And don't come to his aid. It amounts to a wordplay, pun-based trick that Christopher Nolan left out. Because yes,
Bruh.
it is a little campy, and it would require other one-eyed giants to be on this island, and also it still doesn't really explain how Odysseus gets out of the cave. Like, is the threat Polyphemus himself?
I
or
could
is it his
swear
neighborhood
it
place?
never had nothing like that when I read it.
No Cyclops?
Well, no, just not like, you know, whatever he was talking about, like where he was like conversing. It was like, no, at least I don't remember that part. I don't know.
No, I don't remember there. Well,
Here's what Christopher
I don't
Nolan said
remember
when
a
Jon
lot
Stewart
from
asked him
college.
about this stage.
Apparently, there's
Literally.
a joke that Odysseus makes with Cyclops.
Yes. Yes.
He was very upset that that was not in the movie.
I understand. It's a pun. Puns in translation are tough. Do you do a lot of puns in your monologues every night? That, you know?
We do sometimes, but only because we write the show at a 5th grade level. It's a slightly different
There you go. I tried. It was not possible to work it in.
So instead, Nolan builds this solution around Polyphemus
Rich
just being
people
a shepherd,
humor.
and the fact that they do blind him. As a shepherd, he would have to periodically open and close the cave to let the sheep out,
right.
and Odysseus decides to cover their armor with straw and wool, so that when Polyphemus's fingers brushed them, a blind Polyphemus wouldn't be able to tell. They run back to the shore as Polyphemus chases them, even into the water, and goes down under, and then pops up to eat 2 more of those swimming soldiers. Odysseus has fired off 1 extra unnecessary arrow to further injure Polyphemus, which, along with his general trick and freeloading the feta, ultimately amounts to a violation of Zeus's law. Kind of like the suitors back at his home in Ithaca. This is a critical mistake, as Polyphemus is the son of the sea god Poseidon. Odysseus gives his ring to Eurylochus to remember the soldiers that they were unable to properly bury. Meanwhile, Telemachus arrives in Sparta in the hall of Menelaus, played by John Bernthal.
Guys.
Mentor tries to sit beside Menelaus, but he snaps, "Not you,"
get this
showing how
guy.
this brother to Agamemnon
Get
really
this
failed to
guy.
see the light of Athena in Mentor's eyes. Seated on the other side of Menelaus is Helen of Troy, played by Lupita Nyong'o.
Yeah, I see
We are
it.
at the wedding feast of Menelaus and Helen's
This
daughter,
little
Hermione,
fucker.
who in Homer's Odyssey
Can we zoom into this guy, Chad? Oh, you can kind of see him. You can kind of see him. You can kind of see him. He's turning. He's so ugly. Oh, that's what that's like.
Put me back.
No, for real. Alright.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks.
marries the son of the king.
Anyhow.
A promise Menelaus had made to Achilles during the Trojan War. Menelaus refers to Helen as her well-known moniker, the face that launched 1,000 ships, but maybe now just 500, he says, as he turns her face to show that he scarred it. Yes, it's implied that Menelaus did this to punish his wife for absconding with Paris. Helen of Troy is described in Homer's Odyssey as the most beautiful woman in the world, but really nothing further specifically about her physical description, besides a line in the Iliad where Homer called her white-armed. But historians believe that that wasn't a reference to her race, but rather just how people with high social status were described, because it was said that if you didn't work out in the sun tilling the fields, you would just have white arms. It wasn't until a century after Homer's Odyssey that poets started to describe Helen with terms that translated to golden hair or blonde. And then 2 years after that, in Euripides' play Helen, it details the origins of Helen's birth as the offspring of Zeus, who was taking the form of a swan and mated with Leda, the wife of a Spartan king, and that Leda produced an egg that Helen hatched out of. So all of this discourse around the casting of Lupita Nyong'o as Helen, someone who hatched out of an egg, I think is really just trying to force this movie into a culture war narrative that I really don't think Christopher Nolan is that interested in. Either way, let's chase down Menelaus,
Type shit.
Helen's face
She
here,
was
which
fired.
Not for
these
real.
warmongers being the barbaric sea peoples that destroyed their own beautiful civilization. Thanks to ZocDoc for sponsoring today's video. The last
Boy,
thing
you did not just transition to a goofy ass ZocDoc.
all fit just got easier
Um,
thanks to ZocDoc.
Bomba
And
Club, Bomba Club.
Rockstars to find a doctor that's right for you. Thanks to
hell
ZocDoc
no.
for sponsoring
Geek
today's
Bar,
video.
sponsor
Make it
me.
easier for all of us to look after our health.
Root beer,
Through
mud, root beer,
Menelaus, we
sponsor
finally
me.
get the eyewitness account of the story of the horse from the inside. He reveals that they had stayed in that horse for days, that several of their men drowned in the tide, and that they were sitting in their own excrement. As
No,
Sin
literally,
waited
that shit sounded
outside, not knowing they were
disgusting.
in there. As the people of Troy bring the horse into the
Whoever
city,
was
Trojan
on the
soldiers
bottom.
poke swords through the wood, even testing to see if this was a trick. I love the detail of one of the swords actually slicing a soldier. Menelaus covers the dude's mouth to muffle the scream, and Odysseus smartly wipes
Wipes
the
it
sword
out.
as
That
goes
shit
back
was
up to remove the blood.
big
The
brain.
horse is erected at the Temple of Athena, and Nolan's telling the Trojan horse is not a victory trophy. It's the Trojans respecting their Greek enemies enough to relocate the offering they left in the surf directly to the goddess who would bless both sides' ships and civilizations. Odysseus' men climb out of the horse at night, catching the hatch with a rope to prevent the sound of it hitting the ground. The way they slip out kind of feels like a virus invading a healthy organism. They don't really look like heroic invaders. They look like villainous assassins. Troy at
They
night
were.
was lit with
Honestly,
actual
I thought it was
fire,
funny
but
'cause they were trying to come in
they
stealth
called
mode,
the
and
color
I thought they made a
pendulums,
shit ton of
triangular
noise.
circuit boards with hexagonal
Okay.
LED cells that emitted light mimicking the color
No,
and movement
literally.
of fire. Nolan suggested that the Trojan alarm film would be represented by these large bronze sheets that the people of Troy would have struck during the siege, and that the growing cacophony of that sound would evolve into Odysseus's defining three-note musical motif throughout the film. Da, da, da. The production had to crane in 15 fully grown olive trees for the garden within the Troy walls, where Odysseus' men had to kind of anchor down with their arrows volleying with the Troy soldiers to give their men time to crank open the gates, and it seems to take forever.
The aura part. The aura farming part.
Like with
Right.
each
Are they
card,
gonna
we're
show
seeing
it?
civilization trying to grasp onto existence. They get them open, and it almost feels like a defeat because when the gates open, it's really just Agamemnon standing there
They
at
keep
first,
skipping
as this
it.
war really is just a personal grievance for him. But then the Greek soldiers flood in,
Ah.
and Odysseus and Menelaus are seen screaming in victory, and that's where the story just seems to end as Menelaus says, I think you know the rest, because that's really all Menelaus remembers from the war. He doesn't think about the aftermath. Helen scoffs at this being righteous and begins to tell the tale of what awaited Agamemnon when he returned to her sister Clytemnestra, also played by Nyong'o. But Menelaus, similar to Penelope in the opening scene, shouts it down. But all of this really sets up the parallel between Agamemnon and Clytemnestra to Odysseus and Penelope, a very important thing in Homer's poem. Odysseus tells Calypso how Poseidon punished their ships with violent storm that threw them off course. At this point, Christopher Nolan and Hoyte make the sea look a purplish shade of gray that I would say might be their way of making it look like the wine dark sea, as Homer often describes it. Actually, that description of wine dark sea has led some historical linguists to believe that the ancient Greeks might not have seen the color blue the way we see it, that maybe they just saw the sky as a neutral color that didn't really require its own word, like the color of their
Or maybe
dogs
there
did.
just wasn't all that pollution in the sky. It wasn't a color.
Literally. Oh shit.
Yeah. Yeah. You fall over
The
almost.
crew lands on a new forested land where snow flurries
Oh,
throughout
that
the
was
trees.
a real
I
one.
like this detail because it implies that this area might be part of mainland Italy. Odysseus
That's
finds what he assumes is a fully grown man in armor, but it's actually a child played by Barnaby Nolan, who I'm just gonna assume is related to Chris or his brother Jonathan somehow. This child screams and alerts the adult Lystragonians. So in Homer's
Yeah, what the
Odyssey,
fuck were they?
Lystragonians are a tribe of man-eating giants who eat many of Odysseus' men and end up destroying 11 out of his 12 ships by hurling rocks at them. Here,
Them motherfuckers were scary. Like,
They kind of give Titan.
no, for real. Fuck all the other things that they. Well, minus that whirlpool. That shit was crazy. Okay, bro sounded like he was trying to commit suicide. Yeah, nah, I'm not trying to go home. Let's go in there.
Like, it'll just whip us out the other
No,
side.
for real, my boy. What are you talking
Whirlpool
about?
who? Whirlpool you.
Nah, for real, we ain't about that. But nah, these boys were fucking
This
menaces, bro.
gives Attack on Titan the Troy version.
No, literally though, literally,
They even walked like a Titan.
literally, bruh.
they are steel-armored giants, which Nolan does to help with the shooting of the stunt
armor
action,
giant.
because he would have needed 2 sets of both sides of actors and shot all of these scenes twice. Using forced perspective and shots of Matt Damon reacting to this larger figure in the foreground, that's really just actually much further away from the actor than it seems. These Lystragonians hurl these Greeks into trees and interestingly trap them in seemingly magical tree cages that close in around them. While Odysseus'
literally.
boat gets away, the 2 other boats are smashed and capsized by the Lystragonians. Odysseus saves Eurylochus from near death, returning the favor that we find out Eurylochus did to him as Troy was falling apart. But it's going to be something that Odysseus regrets in the short term with the soft mutiny that happens at their next stop. As Odysseus watches his ships destroyed, we actually hear Ludwig Göransson's main theme sung with humming from singer James Blake.
Type shit.
Onto
Type
Aea,
shit.
as Eurylochus and Polites mutiny and leave Odysseus behind while they find Circe's cabin, passing a lion, a panther, a leopard, a tiger, animals that would not be native to this region at all, but Homer describes Circe's island as prowled by strangely docile lions and wolves. Obviously, these are past men whom Circe has shapeshifted. Circe is a witch. Or
Titties!
she's the daughter of Helios, and she's played amazingly in this movie by Samantha Morton. As the men eat her stew, they find themselves unable to stop eating, tethered to the soup via these long strands of tripe that get stuck in their throats. Circe sings this sweet little incantation as she grabs their ears and faces and ends up molding their faces like clay, stretching out their ears into pig ears and their full faces into snouts. It's so awesome. I love this sequence. Odysseus finds Circe casually washing these pigs who just squeal and surround
Yo,
Odysseus,
no.
trying to warn.
This scene was kind of crazy. I seen bro come through and them pigs reacted to bro. I was like,
Yeah, she's like, they seem to really love you.
Yo! Yeah,
They're
they
trying
do.
to warn you, bro. They're like, don't eat this bitch's food.
Literally.
It's gonna get you.
No, literally, bruh. That shit was actually, bruh,
Bruh.
straight, bruh.
him, meaning that they still have the minds of the men.
Straight, man.
Finding the ring he had given Eurylochus, Odysseus wises up to what's happening and grabs Circe's crow, whom Circe implies to be her sister. Actually, in Greek mythology, Circe's sister is Pasiphae, wife to Minos, who ended up giving birth to the Minotaur. I don't know if it's the same sister here, but Odysseus asks, why leave her like this? And Circe's like, we get along better this way. In Homer's Odyssey, it goes down a bit differently. The messenger god Hermes ends up showing up to Odysseus and warns him about this witch, and he advises him that if he ends up acting like he's gonna attack her, Circe's gonna be like, hey, come to bed. And during that sex, Odysseus makes her swear to the gods to free her men. But there's no sex here. It's just grabbing the crow. Circe snaps that she just revealed who his men are. They're primal, they're disgusting, invading beasts who just consume. I mean, Samantha Morton again, just amazingly rageful as this witch. But giving in to Odysseus holding her sister crow, she ends up singing again and whispering, back into your disguises. Ooh, I love this line. The idea of identity concealment and disguise is such a huge motif in Homer's Odyssey. Odysseus is really a talented code switcher and a master of disguise. It's really a virtue of Zeus, who also just loves surprising mortals by taking various forms. So here, Circe says, back into your disguises, to remind us that these armored soldiers of honor are actually disguises worn by savage beasts. That is a common feminist critique of Zeus, someone who takes the form of an animal and doesn't always wait for consent. After getting away,
Actually,
the crew
though,
sails
like,
to the
about that.
underworld, aka Hades.
Bad boy! Bad boy!
The underworld sequences were all filmed in Iceland in the month of June during the eerie all-day light to the midnight sun in desolate terrain.
Oh yeah, the fucking.
I love Zara Larson.
Oh hell no, the brain rot got to her.
You know that song.
As well as the prophet Tiresias, James Remar, and all of the veterans of Odysseus' campaigns. Now Sinon corrects that he begged to take Antinous' rightful place when Antinous was drafted, but Antinous offered payment to his family, and now Sinon gives the lot back to Odysseus to, quote, give Antinous back his shame. Sinon shames Odysseus, asking, did you have to lie to me? Again, we see the theme of the noble lie, which is really a common theme in Nolan's work, from The Prestige, where Borden lives a double life, lying to his wife for a noble cause. The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises, where Batman and Commissioner Gordon lie about Harvey Dent. And Interstellar, where there was the lie of the Plan A to save Earth, the noble lie that was also revealed in a Matt Damon scene. But Sinon is right to explain that there's nothing noble about a lie that amounted to a trick that destroyed civilization. Agamemnon's ghost finally speaks, saying that when he came home, Clytemnestra played the part of washing him, but then murders him in his bed. In Homer's poem, Agamemnon is murdered by Aegisthus, the lover of Clytemnestra. Agamemnon asks if his son Orestes avenged him, and Odysseus is like, But actually in the text, Orestes does return to Athens and kills both Aegisthus and his mother Clytemnestra, bringing about the curse of violence begetting violence in the house of Atreus. That would become the plot of the Oresteia.
Well,
the
he
trilogy
covered
of
her
plays by
titties.
Aeschylus. Agamemnon advises Odysseus to not make his same mistake, and that when he gets home, to not just walk in the front door expecting garlands and praise, but rather to come in disguise and take his time. Tiresias prophesizes Odysseus' next step of the Sirens, Charybdis and Scylla, and the island of the sun cattle, but also in Homer's poem, prophesizes
Okay, but what do the
Odysseus' eventual
sirens sound
return
like? He
to
never
honor
told us.
Sinon's request.
I mean, he kind of did. So it sounded like everything that you ever wanted and more. And it sounded like the promises that you could never fulfill. Like, okay, bro, damn.
How the fuck did you remember that?
What? That's what he said.
Bro can't remember anything else, but he'll quote this goddamn movie.
It's that good. You should watch the Odyssey, chat.
Bruh. Bruh.
In this sequence, I was hoping to see an appearance by Achilles, who, at this point in Homer's poem, laments to Odysseus, I would rather be tied to the soil as a serf than be a king of all these dead and destroyed. These amassed souls of Odysseus' soldiers chase Odysseus back to his ship. These are the men who will be waiting for Odysseus' return to honor them. Now Odysseus recalls to Calypso hearing the songs of the sirens. He instructs his crew to tie him to the mast while filling all of their ears with beeswax. I like how the sound of a Mishpatel putting the beeswax in is kind of like how it sounds like when we put in earbuds. And as the ship approaches the siren rock, the music we hear is the aulos, which is a double reed set of pipes played simultaneously by one musician, something that comes from ancient Greece, played here by Callum Armstrong.
We don't have any surviving reeds. So I worked with 2 other people, and we spent a while trying to work out and figure out how this bit worked at the top. We had to read lots of ancient source material and try and work out how they did it.
The Alos came up in Bjornson's research as kind of the rock instrument of its time.
Bro is a one of
This
one.
specific theme was what we
for
heard
real.
over Odysseus' final night with Penelope.
You know,
And you hear it.
it's like the fucking rapper shit with the fucking producer low key carries the rapper on some WB type shit.
When they reunite, Eurylochus sees Odysseus screaming in agony, and later he explains what he heard. And this monologue is haunting. He says, "It was all the things you wanted it to be, then all the things you wished for. It was the delicious itch you go to scratch that lies under the skin you can't reach, so the itch becomes something unbearable. It told you what you want most is what you can't have, and what you most can't have is what you already had and lost. It was the song of all the promises I failed to keep, and it told me I don't really want to go home." All of Nolan's films can really
I
be
beg your
interpreted as the
pardon?
filmmaker trying to work through himself, pouring himself into
Look, he's
these
looking into
passion
a
projects
telescope.
overseas that take him away from his family, or at least his kids, because his wife Emma is there with him, as he toils through the challenges so that he can work and earn his way back home. It kind of sounds like for Christopher Nolan, his biggest fear is that deep down, this creative artist keeps doing this to himself because part of him doesn't want to go home and grow old. Now the crew pilots past Charybdis, the monstrous whirlpool from this part of Homer's poem. By the looks of it, it's a somewhat practical whirlpool that they somehow generated, but Odysseus orders them to sail closer to the rocks where Tiresias told him another monster resides.
Bro say,
Scylla.
I don't
Scylla is
even
described
know
as
how the fuck they made the whirlpool, but it looked real.
an art as a maiden with a serpentine body and 6 dog heads. But here we only see these dog heads from long snake-like necks grabbing half of the crew and pulling them into a cave.
Yeah, I was
of rocks
like,
where, I guess,
you
the
got
rest
some
of her body is
tentacled
unseen.
creatures
Modern
and
scholars
stuff.
believe that Charybdis was said to have been located in the Strait of Messina off the coast of Sicily and opposite a rock on the mainland identified with Scylla. And a whirlpool does actually exist there, caused by currents meeting, but it is dangerous only to a small craft in extreme conditions. The crew proves Tiresias right by eating the sacred sun cattle, and they end up facing a violent storm where the harsh hand of Zeus kind of chops the ship in half, and Odysseus gets left on one half of the ship while Eurylochus and the rest drown in the other half. We actually hear someone screaming, "Charybdis!" suggesting that this storm has swept them all back out to the whirlpool. In Homer's poem, Odysseus, after being separated from his doomed crew, does get sucked back into Charybdis' maw, but he ends up surviving by clinging to a fig tree. And all of this brings Odysseus to Calypso's island. She reminds him that she found him with the wreckage of his boat and eased his pain with the lotus flower that shifted his physical pain to a pain in his mind, fogging his memory. She says that she fell in love with him and that they were happy together for 7 years. But she tells him that the marriage was never happy because she found him clutching an object, Penelope's pin of Athena, and he begs,
"Help me go home."
In Homer's poem, Calypso ends up supplying Odysseus with a small vessel to sail home with good winds to carry him. Here it's kind of presented as Odysseus lying on a driftwood raft and allowing him to be taken out by Poseidon and Zeus's tides, cleansed by the gods, basically letting Zeus take the wheel. And then miraculously he washes up on the misty shores of Ithaca, greeted by Athena. Menelaus and Helen send off Telemachus back to Penelope.
Let him take the wheel.
Tell her I'm sorry. I'm sorry for Troy and for all the things done in my name. Ooh, it's such a heartbreaking offering from woman to woman to be the sin eater for all of this madness. Because as we see in this film, it's not just Troy that has fallen, but all of civilization. Helen considers it her fault that the Bronze Age of civilization collapsed. Odysseus reunites with Eumaeus, pretending to be a veteran who served Odysseus at Troy. He learns of Antinous' plan to ambush Telemachus on the road back from Pylos in the Temple of Zeus, and he promises the homecoming of Odysseus.
Bringing vengeance. Bringing it all.
By bringing it all, Odysseus is saying that he plans to bring in all the lessons he's learned on his journey. Not just to restore Zeus's law in his house, but really to confess his own breaking of it. Mentor and Telemachus visit the Temple of Zeus in Pylos. Odysseus presents himself as a beggar sent by Eumaeus, taking on the name Sinon as a soldier who fought alongside Odysseus at Troy. Mentor gets poisoned, and Odysseus springs into action and kills the suitors disguised as these priests. Here's where Telemachus suggests that he always suspected Mentor was Athena in disguise, but Odysseus shoots it down, telling his son to stop looking for gods and men. You'll just be disappointed. Yeah, a little clue that Odysseus really does not like the form that Athena takes in this movie, because every time he sees Athena, he just feels the disappointment he felt in the aftermath of Troy. Telemachus tells Penelope his plan to have her choose one suitor so that the rest can leave, and then Menelaus, I guess, will back Telemachus' claim to the throne, and Mama's response is trying to win an Oscar here, as Anne Hathaway says she wants to lock the door, set a fire, and burn the bastards, saying, "You think if I read
Literally.
God." And Telemachus says that he can't kill a suitor without being exiled, and that the throne will stay empty. And Penelope says, because only a man can sit on it?
Literally.
She said, "Who the fuck you think's been keeping this seat warm, boy? You think this shit just been warm the whole time?"
No, literally, she
Bruh.
saying, "Calm down, little bro. You don't really know for real."
Yeah, literally. She said the throne had my name on it,
No,
bruh.
that ass, bro. I was like, yo. she
Yo.
told that nigga, bro. Little bro was a little too into it at that point. No lie.
Argus outside. This dog whines upon seeing his old master, and his little tail wags.
Yeah, because
weakly
they
as
said
Odysseus
that
pets
he
him,
was
and the
waiting
pug
for
finally
Odysseus to
dies.
come back
Yes,
to
the dog
die,
doesn't live
and then
in
he
the hard poem
dies.
either.
And
From
then
this, Telemachus realizes
that's how
who this man is, and Odysseus says, "I am a beggar, and you are the worthy, beautiful son of Odysseus, of whom, when you finally meet, he will be so proud." From the dog dying to this father-son moment, whew, I lost it in the theater. Even though Odysseus is back in his home, he truly does have to take his time to learn the lessons from Agamemnon. He presents himself to Polybus and Antinous begging for food, and from below he sees how cruel they truly are, something Penelope can only see from a distance from above, and he gives Antinous the lot stick from Sinon that originally was Antinous's, and he even uses the name Sinon to make this guy shit his pants. The feast is clear. Still in the sands, sits across the street
remember
from
this,
Penelope.
little bro?
The firelight in the scene causes the vertical and horizontal lines of the screen to glow, making this whole translucent wall visually echo the Tesseract construct bookcase in Interstellar, a translucent bookcase, as that traveler finally made it home in a sense, but still was not able to fully embrace his family. As
Damn!
that was the moment of insight and catharsis in Interstellar, and that space odyssey, that's the moment of insight of the Odyssey. The Aulos pipe music returns, and now we see the aftermath of Troy.
This man don't even know. He don't even know.
The Greeks were hailed in the songs as the songs that Penelope shut down. They were actually violent savages, killing women and children.
Savages.
The scream that was included in Oppenheimer's vision of the atomic blast in the Los Alamos gym.
But I'll bet the Japanese didn't like it.
Yes, this moment is fully in conversation with Oppenheimer, a movie that some, like Spike Lee, criticize for not showing the actual horrors of the human suffering of Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
What the fuck? Motherfuckers say we want to see destruction. We want to see that.
He said, "Well, I want to see what happens to the people when an atomic bomb goes off."
No, literally.
You want to know what
Bro,
happens,
you
guys?
You know.
There's nothing. There's nothing left. The reason why they didn't show you, bro, because there was nothing left. Dust.
Literally.
Nolan does show the audience an eyewitness's view of the death of civilization wrought by Odysseus' innovation. Like, don't you think it's interesting how throughout this movie, the Trojan horse is even propped up in a specific way, lugged around kind of like the device was in New Mexico throughout Oppenheimer, handled with great care, erected vertically, and ultimately by the end of the movie, consuming the world in flame. And we finally learn that the reason Athena is the one god we see take human form in this movie, seen only by Odysseus throughout his travels, Zendaya actually just played a young innocent woman of Troy, slaughtered on the steps of Athena's temple. Ever since that moment, that ghost has stalked Odysseus in the form of the goddess of wisdom. That's why earlier when Odysseus asked Athena why the gods don't speak more plainly to them, Athena responded, "Who doesn't understand pain?" The pain that she's talking about is the pain that Odysseus has upon seeing the slaughter of the original girl who took this form. Actually, it's funny how in all the interviews Zendaya gives in the behind the scenes promo, the outfit she's wearing is that big reveal hidden in plain sight. Odysseus says that with the trick of the Trojan horse, they broke Zeus's law forever. He says, quote, "We lived in a world of palaces, trade, and language, blind to its beauty, until we broke it." Penelope answers the question posed by this movie of who are these mysterious people from the sea threatening to bring about the coming dark age. She tearfully says, "You are the people from the sea." As Nolan reveals in the Tesseract of Interstellar, the mysterious fifth dimensional beings who put all this into motion are us. And it also matches the bleakness of the final line of Oppenheimer, when J. Robert Oppenheimer tells Einstein that when they once stood at this pond and speculated if they had started a chain reaction that would bring about the end of the world, and says, "I believe we did." Now Penelope puts her own plan into motion.
Okay, might have to watch Oppenheimer. Fuck. Hold on, Chad. Might have to watch Oppenheimer, man. Shit. I did not know Albert Einstein.
3.14155269
of the law of relativity and gravity.
upper storage room. Penelope unveils Odysseus' hunting bow for any suitor to string the bow and shoot an arrow through these 12 axes. No suitor is able to do it. Even Antinous is like, I don't need to. But then this stranger, this veteran, steps up and puts them all to shame. He even seems to be toying with them by pretending like he can't do it at first, just so that Penelope will turn her back, and he can win her over with just the sound of him stringing the bow and swinging the bowstring that both Penelope and Antinous immediately recognize. Odysseus perfectly flings the arrow. Hey, this is actually the origin of that TSG Entertainment studio bumper. When you saw The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, it was spoiling the ending of this movie. Polybus's astonishment is cut short with an arrow right to the neck. Actually, this is Antinous' fate in the poem. All hell breaks loose. Melanthius, played by Logan Marshall Green, who's actually Melantho's twin brother and also just as disloyal as his sister is, he runs up to the weapon storage where Eumaeus, knowing that this asshole is eavesdropping, locks him inside. Melanthius does break the floor to drop in weapons from above. It's kind of like Bane blowing a hole in the Wayne Enterprises armory in The Dark Knight Rises, and then starts dropping weapons through, but Telemachus duels him using the slow fighting tactic that Eumaeus taught him before, and he ends up defeating him and dropping the best weapon, a sword, down to Odysseus to overwhelm and defeat the suitors. Eventually, more and more suitors respectfully kneel, recognizing that their king has returned. Odysseus slays Antinous, stuffing the lot in his mouth, saying, "When you get to Hades, tell my men I will head west and honor them. And when you see Sinon, tell him I gave you back your shame." And then he kills him. Odysseus lies in Penelope's arms, embracing the centuries of darkness to follow in this collapsing Bronze Age. He says that his time in Ithaca will not be short due to death, but to exile, which is kind of another Dark Knight Rises echo there.
Death or exile?
In Homer's poem, there is one final test for Penelope where she arranges to have their bed moved to a new room, but Odysseus corrects that that would be impossible because their bed frame is carved out of a tree that he planted beneath their room. So upon hearing that correction, Penelope knows that this is her husband. Now, there is no mention of Odysseus' life after his homecoming in the poem. However, Tiresias' prophecy in Homer's poem does foretell that Odysseus must someday go on this return journey before he can die of old age. So I love that Nolan ends his film by actually showing us the beginnings of that journey as they leave Telemachus behind to take the throne and make good on their promises to each other to take their fastest ship, clutch hands on the desk, and chase the escaping sun. It kind of recalls the Grey Havens sailing out west at the end of Frodo and Bilbo's journey in Return of the King. Odysseus indicates that the stars remembering this tale will be all the future has to remember, an era with limited written communication. And as they hope that civilization will rise again, we're left with Odysseus' vision from the night Troy burned, the Trojan horse itself being consumed in flame. Comment down below with your thoughts on this film.
Guys.
Shit was still heavy, even the breakdown was heavy.
Literally. Maybe you might have to go see it another time.
Nah,
I don't even know, man.
Nah, for real.
Now that I know all this extra shit.
Well, I mean, we got Spider-Man to watch this week, so unfortunately.
See you after Spider-Man.
Not that ass. See you after Spider-Man. You know, watch the Odyssey type shit.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe, bitch ass nigga.
Yeah.
Fuck with y'all, and I'm gonna catch y'all later. Peace.